Hi, it's Paul here at Transport Vlog, and today I am just on the north side of Sydney Airport. I've got Airport Drive behind me, you can see that lorry there, and also got the Cooks River. Might be able to just see that there we go, the Cooks River. And today the flights are landing in this direction, so they're landing from the north into Sydney Airport. So it's Sunday, it's mid-Jan, I'm going to be here for a couple of hours and just see what's flying into Sydney Airport during COVID-19. At the moment there's very limited international and domestic flights. So I'm just going to record what comes in, film as many of the landings as I can. It's the first time I've filmed aircraft on this iPhone 11, so it might be a little bit amateurish, but I'll do my best. But at least we'll have a record of what's been coming into Sydney Airport during COVID-19. So the day in question was Sunday the 17th of January 2021, and I was at the airport from 3:55 to 6:55. I managed to film every plane that landed. Now, at the time of recording this video, the number of international travellers that were allowed to arrive in Sydney had been capped at 5,000 people per week. So that's a fraction of the normal number of people that would arrive at Sydney Airport from international destinations. Now, due to a spike in the number of cases in Sydney over the Christmas period, all other states and territories had closed their borders to New South Wales, making it very difficult to travel interstate. And if you were allowed to travel, you would need to quarantine, probably in a hotel, for 14 days. Now, during this time, New South Wales kept their borders open to all the other states, so people could come into Sydney and New South Wales, but anybody leaving via Sydney Airport would need to quarantine at their destination. So this obviously had a huge effect on the number of interstate flights that were flying during this time. So here is flight SQ222, Singapore Airlines flight to Singapore. Now taxiing for takeoff, it's an Airbus A350-941. So here is the first landing at 3:55. This one did catch me by surprise, so the footage is a little bit brief. Now, if you're wondering where Ballina is, it's in northern New South Wales and it's the gateway airport for Byron Bay. Now, because it was very hard to travel interstate during this time, Byron Bay became a very popular destination in New South Wales, getting around double the number of people it would normally get for this time of the year. Coffs Harbour is further south than Ballina and Byron Bay. Although it's in New South Wales, it's still closer to Brisbane than Sydney. So then it all went quiet for 31 minutes. Can you imagine no landing for 31 minutes? You'd never have that under normal circumstances. But there was a bit of entertainment in the form of a DC-10, a FedEx DC-10, as you can see here. These planes bring back some fond memories to when I was 7 years old, living in Christchurch in New Zealand. And I used to go to Christchurch Airport quite often with my parents, and we used to see the Air New Zealand DC-10s. They were my favourite plane at the time. So it was really nice to see one of these at Sydney Airport, and good to know that they're still flying, even if it's only for freight. So after the 31-minute gap, I got caught out by this next flight coming in, so the footage for this one is a little bit brief. So here it is, frozen in mid-air, an Emirates Sky Cargo Boeing 777 from Singapore. And in case you're wondering where Merimbula is, it's in southern New South Wales on the coast. Dubbo is relatively close to Sydney. It's about a 4-hour drive inland. There's also a train that goes there as well. So this would have been the shortest flight of all the landings that I recorded today. Wagga Wagga is in the heart of regional New South Wales. It's also on the railway line between Sydney and Melbourne. It's about 6.5 hours by train from Wagga Wagga to Sydney. So flying is the obvious public transport option for most people. Port Macquarie is about halfway between Brisbane and Sydney. Lord Howe Island is part of New South Wales, so this is one place that people could go to during this time. So that's two flights from Taipei in Taiwan within 15 minutes of each other, and both China Airlines. That seems strange in the middle of a pandemic to have 2 flights from one destination that's international. I wonder why that might be. If you have any ideas, leave a comment below. Hamilton Island is in North Queensland. It's in an area known as the Whitsundays and it's close to the Great Barrier Reef. So Armadale is also in northern New South Wales, but is a bit more inland. You can get there by train, but it takes quite a while. So I'm just going to finish off by summarising what happened in a few slides. So as I mentioned, the date was Sunday the 17th of January 2021. The times were 3:55 p.m. to 6:55 p.m. If you're wondering why I went for those times, it was basically because that China Airlines flight came in just before 4 p.m. And then after the last flight, there was nothing till after 7, so that's why I went for these times. Number of landings during that time was 32, including the one private plane. And that was an average of one landing every 5.6 minutes. So normally it'd be a landing about every 2 minutes, so quite a lot less than normal. And the longest gap, as I mentioned in the video, was 31 minutes. So of those 32 flights, 12 were from within New South Wales, 10 were interstate, 9 were international, and of those that were international, 5 were passenger and 4 were freight. All the within New South Wales and interstate flights were passenger. So landings by originating airport. So Ballina within New South Wales had 3 landings. As I mentioned in the video, that's the gateway airport for Byron Bay, which has become a very popular tourist destination because it's somewhere within New South Wales that people can go to. But also Melbourne was the most common interstate destination with 3 flights. And then Coffs Harbour had 2, Darwin had 2, Hobart had 2, Honolulu had 2, but they were both freight flights. Port Macquarie had 2, and the only international destination with 2, as I mentioned in the video, was Taipei in Taiwan. So landings by airline, not surprisingly, Qantas had 16 landings, followed by Virgin with 4, then China Airlines with 2, and then all the other airlines had 1 landing each. So landings by plane type, so the de Havilland Canada Dash 8 had 9 landings, also the Boeing 737 had 9 landings. Now in normal situation, the turboprop, the de Havilland Canada Dash, would be a very, very small proportion of the total number of planes landing. But because there's very little interstate and international flying going on, and the regional flights are happening as pretty much as normal, those flights have been largely unaffected. So that would account for a large proportion of the turboprops. And then we had the Boeing 777, 4 of those, the Airbus A330, 4 of them, the Airbus A320, 1 of those, the Beech B300 Super King Air, that was the Royal Flying Doctor's flight, that was 1 of those, the Boeing 717, the Boeing 747, the freight one, and the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. That was the flight from Darwin. It's good to see the Dreamliner, actually. I wasn't expecting to see that, but I suppose they can't really fly on international flights at the moment, so I suppose Qantas might as well use them. And the Learjet 45, that was the private plane. So the busiest hour, well, it wasn't the first hour. That was 3:55 to 4:54, was only 5 landings, and that was the hour that had the 31-minute gap as well. Then the next hour, 4:55 to 5:54, it had 14 landings. That was the busiest hour. And then 5:55 to 6:55 had 12 landings. So a lot of the data that I was able to provide for each flight, things like the flight number, the origin airport, the type of plane, was all possible by using Flight Radar 24, which allows you to see everything that's landing and taking off at any airport in the world. Really, really powerful. It's free as well. You can use the web version, or I was using the iPhone app version. So I have a spreadsheet, which is here, which I'll put a link to in the description. So you can download that if you want. That has every single landing during that 3-hour period. And I'll also put a link in the description to the Flight Radar 24 website as well, in case you want to check that out. As I say, it's free, and it's a really, really great way to find out what's going on at any airport anywhere in the world. So I hope you enjoyed this video, seeing planes landing at Sydney Airport during the middle of COVID-19. If you did, do give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. And do subscribe if you haven't already. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.